The morning sun cast a soft glow over Silver Lake, creating an almost mystical ambience on the calm waters. Fishermen were starting to gather along the shoreline, their quiet conversations blending with the soft sounds of lapping waves. Among them was Mark Larson, a rugged 42-year-old fisherman known throughout the region for his unique hand fishing technique, often called noodling. This was no ordinary fishing method. Instead of rods or nets, Mark used his bare hands, diving into the water to coax fish to bite his fingers. Over his 25-year career, he had gained a reputation for his daring style, and this morning he was eager to put his skills to the test. Mark had been out on the lake since dawn, his favorite time to fish. The quietude and golden light of the early morning made him feel a deep connection to nature, a bond he cherished and respected. Today, however, something felt different, almost like the lake was hiding secrets just beneath the surface. Mark brushed the thought aside, chalking it up to his excitement for the catch. But before we start, smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our upcoming stories. As he waded deeper into the water, he noticed a local journalist observing him. She had come to document his unique fishing style and understand what drove him to use such an unconventional approach. With his sleeves rolled up and hooded boots secure, Mark smiled at her and plunged his entire forearm into the cool water, letting his fingers move in a rhythmic motion designed to track the fish. "This technique works best for catching catfish," he explained, his voice steady. "They feel the movement and think it's food." Almost immediately, he felt a tug, and with a swift motion, he yanked his arm out of the water, a lively 16-inch catfish wriggling in his grip. The small crowd that had gathered applauded as Mark proudly displayed the fish, a wide grin on his face. Catfish typically had no teeth, making this technique fairly safe, but the fish's suction power often left small scratches on his hands. Mark lowered the fish back into the water, showing his scratched hands to the crowd. "Nothing serious," he chuckled, shrugging off the minor injuries. It was all part of the job, after all. After releasing the fish, Mark turned to address the crowd. "Yesterday I had a much bigger fight," he began, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "Caught a catfish that was nearly 4 feet long. I could barely hold on it, nearly pulled me under." He paused, catching his breath as he remembered the struggle. But that wasn't the strangest part of that catch. The journalist, eager to capture his story, pressed him for details, but before he could answer, Mark's gaze shifted back to the lake. About 5 feet away, just below the surface, he saw a shadow moving slowly but deliberately toward him. His heart skipped a beat, realizing that this was no ordinary fish. It was enormous. The crowd gasped, their whispers growing louder as they noticed the massive shadow approaching. "Look at the size of that thing," someone exclaimed. Mark's pulse quickened. He'd spent countless hours on this lake, but he had never seen a fish of this size. A bystander called out, "Careful, Mark," but he was already backing away, realizing he couldn't rely on his hands alone to bring in this catch. Without hesitation, he sprinted to his gear on the shore and grabbed a heavy-duty fishing rod designed specifically for large catches. It was a long pole with a blunt hook, perfect for handling massive fish. After wrapping the hook in raw meat as bait, he cast it out toward the shadow, taking a deep breath as he braced himself for what would undoubtedly be a battle. Moments later, the fish took the bait with a force that nearly ripped the rod from his hands. Mark grunted, gripping the rod tighter as he dug his heels into the mud for leverage. The fish thrashed in the water, its power unmatched by anything he'd encountered before. The struggle continued, each pull from the fish met with Mark's unwavering determination. The onlookers watched in awe as the tug-of-war between man and fish stretched on. An hour passed, then 2, and still the fish fought against capture, its massive body twisting and thrashing in a desperate attempt to escape. By now, even local police officers who had been patrolling nearby were drawn to the spectacle, joining the crowd in anticipation of Mark's triumph. As the battle wore on, Mark could feel exhaustion creeping into his muscles, but he refused to give up. He called out to the crowd, "Bring my trailer." A bystander grabbed his truck keys and ran to fetch it, positioning the vehicle close to the shore as the crowd waited breathlessly. After nearly 3 hours, Mark finally managed to pull the massive fish close enough to shore. With the help of 8 other people, they heaved the fish out of the water and into the trailer. Mark, panting and drenched in sweat, collapsed onto the ground beside his colossal catch. He knew this would be a story for the ages. But as he inspected the fish more closely, he noticed something strange. The fish's mouth was partially open, and inside he saw an unusual sparkle. Leaning in closer, Mark's eyes widened as he realized the fish's mouth was filled with small, colorful stones, each one glittering in shades of gold, red, silver, and violet. The sunlight caught on them, creating a rainbow of colors that seemed almost otherworldly. "Everyone, come look!" he shouted, his voice shaking with excitement. As people crowded around, Mark reached into the fish's mouth, gingerly lifting one of the stones. It was smooth, polished, and shining like a gemstone. One by one, he carefully pulled out each stone, counting 10 in total. A murmur of awe rippled through the crowd. The stones were dazzling, unlike anything they had seen before. A police officer in the crowd frowned, his expression serious. "Wait a minute," he muttered, stepping forward. He eyed the stones carefully, then glanced at Mark. These are diamonds." The crowd gasped. "Diamonds? Here in the mouth of a fish?" The officer turned to Mark, his face grim. "We've been patrolling the lake for weeks because of a theft from the National Museum. Diamonds worth over $20 million were stolen and haven't been seen since." Mark's jaw dropped as he realized the significance of his discovery. You think these diamonds are part of that stolen lot?" he asked, still in shock. The officer nodded. The thieves must have dumped the diamonds into the lake to avoid being caught. But the fish, attracted by the sparkle, must have swallowed them. He looked back at the lake, his brow furrowing in thought. There's no telling how many diamonds might still be down there, or if the thieves plan to come back for them. Mark thought quickly, an idea forming in his mind. He dashed to his truck and retrieved a vibration sensor, a device he had once used to detect fish movements during night fishing. He explained to the officer that the sensor could detect even the faintest disturbances in the water. "If the thieves return to retrieve the diamonds, this will pick up their movements," he said, carefully placing the sensor on the fish's back before releasing it back into the lake. The officer nodded approvingly. "Good thinking, Mark. We'll set up a stakeout and monitor the area." As dusk fell, the lake grew quiet once again, but this time a sense of anticipation hung in the air. More than 50 officers, along with Mark, hid around the lake, their eyes trained on the water. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves. At around 2 a.m., the monitor lit up, signaling a sudden burst of activity near the lake's northwest corner. Mark's heart raced as he radioed the coordinates to the officers. "They're here," he whispered, adrenaline coursing through his veins. Within seconds, officers swarmed the area, surrounding a group of men who were stealthily moving along the shoreline, bags in hand. Caught red-handed, the thieves had no choice but to surrender. Bags filled with diamonds and other jewels were recovered, totaling over $54 million. The next morning, news of the recovery spread like wildfire. Mark Larson, the humble fisherman, had inadvertently become a local hero. At a special ceremony, the mayor awarded him a Medal of Honor, commending his quick thinking and bravery. Mark, though humbled, accepted the accolades with a quiet smile, his thoughts still on the lake and the colossal fish that had unwittingly led him to such a discovery. His story became the stuff of local legend, passed down to future generations who would marvel at the fisherman who had saved millions in stolen jewels, all thanks to an ordinary day on the lake and one unforgettable catch. And though Mark returned to his regular fishing routine, he would never forget the day he uncovered a hidden treasure in the depths of Silver Lake.